Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In today's video, I'm going to discuss how to find the perimeter as well as the area of some common quadrilaterals, which is a topic you have to be familiar with in order to be successful on the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. As always, I encourage you to follow along at home by trying to work out as many of these practice problems as possible. In order to do so, I encourage you to pause the video as soon as I read a practice problem, try to work out the problem on your own scratch paper, and then resume playing the video to see if you and I came up with the same answer. Later this week, I'm going to discuss how to find surface area as well as volume. So this week, I'm going to be discussing a lot of formulas. And again, on the ASVAB, you're not allowed to use a calculator or a formula sheet. So you're going to have to make an effort to commit these formulas to memory at some point. All that said, let's get started with today's video. Again, as I mentioned, we're discussing perimeter as well as area. Previously, I discussed how to find the perimeter and area of triangles as well as circles. So in other words, these two topics are not going to be included in today's video. That said, I do want to mention again, since I think it's going to be helpful, that to find the perimeter of a circle, you're basically finding its circumference, which you can find using the formula 2 pi r, or pi times diameter. So that leaves us with squares, rectangles, parallelograms, and trapezoids for today's video. And you might be saying to yourself at this point, well, that's 8 formulas. I really don't think I can memorize 8 formulas. Well, let's start by talking about perimeter. Again, to find the perimeter of any polygon, you simply add up all of its sides. Okay? So in light of that, I don't recommend that you memorize any of these formulas to find the perimeter of these polygons. All you need to know is that to find the perimeter of squares, rectangles, parallelograms, and trapezoids, you add up all of their sides. So for example, if I had this parallelogram here, and let me try to draw it right here, and it had this side of 5 and this length of 10, and I asked you to find its perimeter, you could rely on this formula to do so. But that said, you should recognize that in a parallelogram, this side and this side are equivalent, and this side and this side is equivalent. So this is going to be 10 here. This is going to be 5 here. As I mentioned, to find the perimeter, you just add up all the sides. So this is simply 5 plus 5 plus 10 plus 10, which is 10 plus 10 plus 10, which is 30. Okay, so again, that's going to work for everything we're going to discuss today, and you'll see that as I work out these practice problems. I'm not going to refer to their formulas for perimeter. Instead, I'm just going to make use of the fact that you add up all their sides. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's discuss how to find the area of these quadrilaterals. Many of you already know how to find the area of squares and rectangles. Again, the area of a rectangle is simply found by multiplying its length times its width. And to find the area of a square, you simply square one of its sides, or you multiply its sides together, so s times s. Okay? That leaves us with only 2 formulas that we really need to commit to memory, and they're both rather easy. To find the area of a parallelogram, you take its base, which we can see is right down here, times its height, which is right here. And that's it. Again, area of a parallelogram is base times height. And as long as you can identify its base and height, that's pretty straightforward as well. And then that leaves us with trapezoids. To find the area of a trapezoid, you take its bases, and there's 2 of them. They're always top and bottom like that. You add them together, multiply that by 1/2, and then multiply that by its height. So that formula is 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times its height. So in reality, you're only memorizing 2 formulas. Okay. Now that I've discussed how to find the perimeter as well as the area for each of the above mentioned quadrilaterals, let's go ahead and take a look at a few practice problems. To start, we can see that we're going to be dealing with a trapezoid. And in order to do this one, we want to find its perimeter as well as its area. As I mentioned above, to find the perimeter of any of these, we're just going to add up all of their sides. So in light of that, we're just going to do 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 8. Again, that's all of the sides. 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 8. That is the perimeter. Let's go ahead and do that. 7 plus 6 is 13. 5 plus 8 similarly is 13. 13 plus 13 is 26. So we know in this case the perimeter is 26 units. And I'm saying units because they didn't give us a measurement. But that said, let's find the area of this trapezoid now. And if you recall, the formula for finding the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height. Okay, so let's identify those things and plug them in. Again, the base is here as well as here. And let me fix that so it's a straight line. So we know that B1 and B2 are going to be 6 and 8. And as I mentioned, the height is always inside the trapezoid, so we can see that's going to be 4 in this case. So let's just plug those things in and solve accordingly. It's going to be 1/2. Base 1, let's call that 8. Base 2, let's call that 6. And then the height, as I just mentioned, is 4. Okay, so this is 8 plus 6 times 1/2 times 4. Again, according to the order of operations, which is PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, we do what's in parentheses first, followed by exponents, followed by multiplication and division from left to right, and finally addition and subtraction from left to right. In this case, we do see that we have something in parentheses, so we're going to have to work that out first. 8 plus 6 is going to be 14. Okay, so we worked out our parentheses. There are no exponents that we're concerned with, but that said, we do have multiplication and division, or multiplication. And again, it doesn't really matter the order in which you do this, but we're going to do it from left to right. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 14, which we should know is 7. Of course, that's going to be times 4. 7 times 4 is 28. And area, in case I didn't mention it already, always corresponds with squared. So this is going to be 28 units squared. Okay. As you'll see in tomorrow's video, volume is going to correspond with cubes, and surface area, since it's still dealing with area, is going to correspond with squared. And sometimes the ASVAB will try to trick you by asking you, is the area of squared or cubed? So just be mindful of that. And again, we're only going to do one of each of these because, again, they're not that difficult to understand. Right away, we should recognize that this is going to be a rectangle. Okay, and again, in this rectangle, we're told that its length is 8.7 and its width is 5.8. Right. One thing we have to know in order to use my method of finding the perimeter of any polygon is this. This width is the same as this width. This length is the same as this length in a rectangle. So in other words, if this is 8.7, this is also 8.7. And if this similarly is 5.8, this is also 5.8. Okay, so now we have all of our sides labeled. To find the perimeter, we're just going to add all of those up. And since we're dealing with decimals here, I'm going to add them vertically. That is, I'm going to do 8.7, 8.7, 5.8, 5.8. Let's add. Again, this is where most people would make their mistakes. So take your time as you do this. If you need to use your fingers and toes, that's fine as well. But that said, this will give us our perimeter. So this is 16 plus 14, which is going to be 30. carrier 3. Again, drop your decimal in place. And now just add all these up. This is going to be 10 plus 16 plus 3. 10 plus 16 is 26, plus 3 is 29. So we can see the perimeter of this rectangle is going to be 29 even. Okay, so that was that. Again, to find the area of a rectangle, we use the formula length times width. And in this case, we can see our width, or our length is 8.7. That's going to be times the width of 5.8. And I included decimals for some of these just to get us some practice multiplying decimals, which you'll see on the ASVAB. So this is 8.7 times 5.8. That is, we're doing multiplication, albeit with a decimal times a decimal. My method is to shift these decimals to the right such that we make these decimals whole numbers. And then once we're done doing the multiplication, we shift the decimals back into the left at the end. So I'm going to shift this decimal place one time. I'm going to shift this decimal place one time to make 87, or 8.7 87 and 5.8 58. So in total, I moved the decimal place 2 times. In reality, I'm doing 87 times 58, albeit with 2 decimals to shift back into the left at the end. 8 times 7 is going to be 56. Carrier 5. 8 times 8 is 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. Drop down a 0 since we're starting this number. 7 times 5 is 35, carrier 3. 8 times 5 is 40, so 43 there. Let's add 0 plus 6 is 6. 9 plus 5 is 14, carrier 1. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10, carrier 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. Add your 2 decimals in, 1, 2. So we can see the area is going to be 50.46. And did they give us units? Yards. So this is going to be yards squared. And we can just fill that in right here. 50.46 yards squared, or squared yards, however you want to view that. Okay, so that was a rectangle. We've done a trapezoid. Let's go ahead and do this parallelogram. Again, not too much to memorize here. Again, this, as I just mentioned, is a parallelogram. To find the perimeter of any of the polygons we're going to discuss today, we simply add up all of their sides. In this case, we know that A is 6.02, C is 9.8, this height is 5.7. So now, just like what we did with the rectangle, we have to realize that in a parallelogram, this side and this side are equivalent, and this side are equivalent. So if this one's 6.02, this one's also 6.02. And if this one's 9.8, this one's also 9.8. So now to find the perimeter, we're just going to add up all of its sides. And again, since we're dealing with decimals, I'm going to go ahead and do it vertically as I did previously. So this is going to be 9.8. And I'm going to include this 0 since this one goes to 2 decimal places. Okay. Oh, we're doing addition there. All right, so let's do this addition with these decimals. And again, before you even get started, you can just drop your decimal in place vertically. This is 0 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2, which is just 4. 8 plus 8, as we know, is 16, carrier 1. Again, drop down your decimal if you haven't done so already. 9 plus 9 is 18. So this is 18. This is 12. 12 plus 18 is 30. Plus 1 is 31. So we know the perimeter in this case is 31.64 yards. To find the area, you may recall, is base times height. And again, base is always this bottom one, and its height is given right there. So to find the area of this parallelogram, we're going to do 9.8 times 5.7. And again, we're doing multiplication with decimals here, so let's do it off to the side. Again, this is 9.8 times 5.7. To do this work with decimals, we're going to shift this decimal one time to the right, this decimal one time to the right. So in total, we shift the decimal place 2 times. At the end, we're going to shift those decimals back in. So this is 98 times 57, albeit with 2 decimals to shift back into the left at the end. 7 times 6 is 56. Carry your 5. 9 times 7 is 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68. Drop down your 0 placeholder before you start multiplication with 5, so we'll drop that in. 5 times 8 is 40, so we drop down our 0 and carry our 4. 9 times 5 is 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Let's add. 6 plus 0 is 6, 8 plus 0 is 8, 6 plus 9 is 15, carry your 1, 4 plus 1 is 5. Bring your 2 decimals back into the left. So we can see the area of this parallelogram is going to be 55.86. And of course, that's going to be yards squared. So right here for number 6, we can see we have a square, and one of its sides is 6.4. To find its perimeter, instead of making use of that long formula up there, we just have to realize that all the sides in a square are equal. So if one's 6.4, they're all 6.4. And so in order to find its perimeter, we're simply going to add up all of its sides. That is, we're going to do 6.4 plus 6.4 plus 6.4 plus 6.4. Similarly, you could have done 6.4 plus 4 if you wanted to. It's really up to you. But in this case, drop down your decimal to start. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So carry your 1. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 is 18, plus 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So we can see its perimeter is going to be 25.6 inches. To find the area of a square, as many of you know, it's either side squared or side times side. I like to use side times side. So this is going to be 6.4 times 6.4. And again, we're doing 6.4 times 6.4. That is, we're multiplying 2 decimals together. In order to do this, we're going to have to shift their decimals. I'm going to shift this decimal one place to make 6.464. And I'm going to do the same thing in the bottom as well. So I shift the decimal place a total of 2 times. So this is going to be 64 times 64, albeit with 2 decimals to shift to the left at the end. 4 times 4 is 16. Carry your 1. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Drop in a 0 placeholder before you start this number. 6 times 4 is 24. Carry your 2. 6 times 6 is 36, 37, 38. Let's add. 0 plus 6 is 6. 5 plus 4 is 9. 8 plus 2 is 10. Carry your 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. Shift in your 2 decimals, 1, 2. So we can see the area is going to be 40.96 inches squared. All right, now that we've done some basic problems, let's take a look at some questions that are going to mirror what you'll see on the ASVAB. Again, as it stands, you know everything you need to in order to do these problems. So it's a good idea to pause the video after I read these questions, attempt to work them out on your own, and then resume playing the video to see if you and I come up with the same answer. In this case, we're being asked to find the area of this figure above. And as we can see, it's not a polygon with which we're familiar. But that said, we have to realize that this is a so-called composite figure. And a composite figure is a figure that's just a combination of two or more different shapes or polygons. In this case, if we were to cut this off right here, we can see that we would have a 3 by 3 square and a 10 by 4 rectangle. And let me cut that off a little better there. It's pretty hard to draw a straight line with this this pen that I'm using. All right, that's good enough. So again, as I mentioned, composite figures are combinations of two polygons with which you're familiar. In this case, we have a rectangle here and a square here. So to find the area of this figure, we're going to find the area of this square and this rectangle separately, and then we're simply going to add those areas together. So let's start. I'm going to call this area of the square, and we'll call this area of the rectangle. Let me go ahead and move up a little bit. Again, as we know, the area of a square is the same as side times side, whereas the area of a rectangle is length times width. In this case, we know what all of those are, so let's go ahead and plug them in accordingly. The sides of this square, as we can see, are 3 and 3, so this is going to be 3 times 3. So its area is going to be 3 times 3 or 9 centimeters squared. Now let's work on the rectangle. Its length, as we can see, is 10, whereas its width is 4. So let's plug those in. 10 times 4 is 40. That's 40 centimeters squared. And again, we want to find the area of this entire figure, so we're just going to add those two together. So in other words, this is going to be area of the square plus area of the rectangle, and that's going to give us the area of this composite figure, which I'll call CF, which is the same as 9 plus 40, which is 49 centimeters squared. Okay, so that's going to be this one. And as you can see, we're dealing with area, so we know it's going to be squared. They try to trick you by throwing that cube in there just to see if you'd fall for it. So that's that one. Again, you might see questions regarding composite figures on the ASVAB, in which case you're going to have to slice them into polygons with which you're familiar, and then add or sum their areas accordingly, as I did here. This is a very basic example, so just be ready for that. All right, number 2 says the perimeter of a rectangular playground is 46 meters. If the length of the park is 7 meters, what is the width of the park? Okay, so let's go ahead and approach this one by drawing a little diagram. We know we're dealing with a rectangular park, and we know the length is 7, so that's going to be 7 meters right there. We know similarly that its perimeter is 46 meters, and we want to find what its width is. Again, as I mentioned, to find the perimeter of any polygon, excluding circles, you simply add up all their sides. And in this case, we have to realize that this side is the same as this side. So if that one's 7 meters, this one's also 7 meters, which leaves us with 2 unknown sides that are equivalent. And I'm going to call them, let's call them X. So if this one's X meters long, this one's X meters long. Again, to find the perimeter of any polygon, you add up all their sides. So this would be 7 plus X plus X. And then again, since we know what P is, let's plug this in place of P as our next step. So this is 46 equals 7 plus X plus X. Okay, so now we're just going to be solving for X, as you can tell. Let's start by combining like terms. 7 plus 7 is 14. then x plus x is going to be 2x. Let's subtract 14 from both sides because, as you can see, our goal is to get x equal to something by itself. So we're going to subtract 14 from both sides. This is going to cross out, leaving you with just 2x over here. Let's do 46 minus 14 off to the side in case we can't do it in our head. 6 minus 4 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. So this is 32 equals 2x. Now we want to get x by itself, and to do so, we're going to divide both sides by 2. This is going to cross out, leaving you with x equals 32 over 2, which, as we can see, isn't one of our answer choices. So we're going to have to treat this fraction as long division. That is, we're going to have to read this as 32 divided by 2, and we can work that out accordingly if you can't do it in your head. Many of you probably could. 2 goes into 3 one time without going over. 1 times 2 is 2. Subtract 3 times 3 minus 2 is 1. Drop down your 2. 2 goes into 12 6 times without going over. 2 times 6 is 12, so we can see there's no remainder. Therefore, we know 32 divided by 2 is 16. And since x corresponds to the width of this rectangle, we know that x equals 16 meters. Therefore, the width is 16 meters. Okay, so that's a pretty common question that you'll see on the ASVAB. They'll give you the perimeter as well as either the length or the width of a rectangle and ask you to solve for either the length or the width accordingly. So pretty simple as long as you know how to find perimeter. All right, number 3 says Betty wants to install new carpet in her living room. The room length is 15 feet and the width is 15 feet. If the cost of the carpet is $8 per square foot, what will be the total cost to carpet Betty's living room? Okay, so let's not surprisingly start with the diagram here. And in this case, we have to realize that her living room is 15 by 15. That is, it's a square. And since we're dealing with the cost to cover the entire floor with carpet, we're going to be dealing with area, not perimeter. Area of a square is side times side, or side squared. In this case, it's going to be 15 times 15. And that, you should know, is going to be 225. And this is feet squared. Okay. So in light of that, and if you needed to, you could have done 15 by 15 off to the side like that. But this is one you should know by heart. You shouldn't have to work this out all the time, but you could if you needed to. But that said, we know the cost of carpet is $8 per square foot. So this is going to be 225 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40, so carry our 4. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 4 is 20. Carry our 2. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 2 is 18. So we can see that the total area that she has to cover with carpet is 225 square feet. If it's $8 per square foot, that means it's gonna cost $1,800 to carpet her living room. Okay, so that one's pretty simple, but that is a pretty common question on the ASVAB. All right, let's take a look at number 4 now. It says a rectangle is 4 times longer than its width. The perimeter of the rectangle is 30 centimeters. Find the dimensions of the rectangle. Okay, so in this case, we know the perimeter is going to be 30 centimeters. And similarly, we know it's 4 times longer than its width. So if its width is x, its length is 4x. And as we know, this side and this side in a rectangle are equal. So if this one's x, this one's also x. And similarly, this side and this side in a rectangle are equal. So if that side's 4x, this side's also 4x. To find the perimeter of any polygon, including rectangles, you simply add up all the sides. So in this case, the perimeter is going to be x plus 4x plus x plus 4x. That is, we just added up all those sides. And let me move that away from this rectangle so it doesn't get confusing. Let's do that over here. Again, the perimeter of any polygon, including rectangles, is found by adding up all of its sides. So that's going to be x plus 4x plus x plus 4x, x plus 4x plus x plus 4x. Okay? Similarly, we already know what p is. P is 30, so we can plug that in for p. So this is 30 equals x plus 4x plus x plus 4x. Let's combine like terms. In this case, they're all like terms. So this is going to be x plus 4x, which is going to be 5x, plus x is going to be 6x. Let's see. 4x, 5x, 5x. So this is going to be 10x. Okay? Again, x plus 4x is 5x, plus x is 6x, plus 4x is 10x. Okay, so now we're just solving for x, so we're going to divide both sides by 10. This is going to cross out, leaving you with x equals 30 over 10, which is just going to be 3. Okay, x, of course, corresponds to the width. So we know the width in this case is 3. The length of this rectangle is 4x. So that's going to be 4 times 3 are 12. Therefore, we know the width and length of this rectangle are 3 and 12, which is C. Okay, so that was that one. And let me get this out of the way for the next one. All right, let's take a look at this final problem here. And it says, find the perimeter of the figure above. Again, just to stress it one more time, to find the perimeter of any polygon, you simply add up all of its sides. So in this case, we have some composite figure here that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So to find its perimeter, again, if you were relying on formulas to figure this one out, you'd probably be lost right now. But we're simply going to add up all of its sides. And I'm going to start here and work my way around this figure that way. So it's going to be 12 plus 12 plus 3 plus 7 plus 7 plus 10 plus 3 plus 15. All right, so again, that's adding up all of its sides. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll have our answer for this one. 2 plus 2 is 4. 7 plus 3 is 10. 7 plus 3 is 10. And then we have 5 hanging out here. So this is 20 plus 9, or 29. Carry your 2. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So we can see that the perimeter of this composite figure is 69 meters. All right, so that's it for today's video. I hope you liked the way I structured it. More specifically, I hope you like the fact that I did some very basic problems and then did some more advanced problems toward the end of the video. As I mentioned, now that I've covered perimeter and area, I'm going to talk about surface area and volume later this week. But that said, I hope you found this video helpful. These videos do take a long time to make. So if you like the content I'm creating, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. In addition, you can always leave some feedback in the comments section below. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. Konnichiwa.